Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for checking out our recording of the Resume and Internship Panel workshop event. This is our first event of the year, and I'm so glad that you guys are interested in learning more about furthering your careers and getting just more advice from the people who know it best. This panel was of 7 people, including a special guest that wasn't announced prior, and you will get more information on who those are later on in the recording. If you want notes on the answers that they provided so you have them to reference, you can always check our Discord channel for more information. The notes will be linked in there, as well as on our Instagram page. The link in our bio can redirect you to where to find those notes. I hope you guys enjoy the panel and learn something new. So again, welcome everybody to the Resume and Internship Panel. This is going to be a great event. You're going to learn from some of my favorite people in the world who have given me some of the best advice in the world. Any questions about Resume and Internship Panel related things? Throughout the beginning portion, we will be answering questions that us at Include have written just to provide some guidance and answer, cover the basic grounds. While that is happening, feel free to write down your own questions, because at the end, we will have an open floor where you can ask whatever you want. Before we start, we should give a little introduction to our panelists. So starting from Brian and ending with Diego, if you guys want to introduce yourself, give us your name, where you went to school and what you studied, your job title, and your favorite word.
Oh, God. Hi, everyone. My name is Brian. I went to school at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, studying computer science. I graduated three and a half years ago-ish. And I'm currently an EPM, or engineering product manager, on the machine learning team at Apple that drives the search experience for apple.com. Oh, yes. Favorite word? Food, definitely. Yeah.
All right, I'll go next. Hey guys, my name is Iftikhar. I go by If. I study at the University of California, Davis, or UC Davis. I don't know why I didn't shorten that. But yeah, I study computer science here. I'm in my last year. I'm in my senior year right now. And sorry, what was the other questions? Favorite word? Favorite word is ducks, because recently I've become very obsessed with ducks. So yeah.
Hello, my name is Sally. I went to school in UC Davis and I was a design major. I'm currently in Korea right now, but I was a UX design intern for the summer at Riot Games. Not sure if I have to say anything else, but my favorite word right now is coffee, because this coffee is saving my life. Yeah.
I believe Ron just entered. So Ron, if you want to introduce yourself, give us your name, what you do, what you studied, and where you went, as well as your favorite word.
Hello, yes. I apologize for the tardiness. Include's pretty used to it. So but I'm sorry for being late. Yeah, okay. So yes. Can you repeat the question? Sorry, I talk too much.
It's okay. What's your name? What do you do? What did you study? And what's your favorite word?
Okay. Yeah, my name is Ronak Anand. I studied at UC Davis. I studied computer science and statistics. My favorite word, superfragilistic Let's go.
Hi, I'm Ben. I graduated from UC Davis back in March, and I study computer science. I am currently a technical program manager at Apple. I am under the data team, which is within the system intelligence and machine learning org. And basically my team supports different operating system features that are powered by machine learning models. So yeah.
Hey everyone, my name is Cassidy Hefner. I'm a UX designer at Capital One. I went to school at the Savannah College of Art and Design, or SCAD, in Georgia. I studied service design, graduated in 2019, and my favorite word is happy because it's important to be happy.
I'm the last one. Hey everyone, I'm Diego. My major was design in UC Davis. My job title is product design, and I work at LinkedIn for the media team. So basically, I mainly focus on content creation and also videos and images. So my favorite word would be sleep, because I try to get at least 8 hours, but sometimes it does not go like that. So yeah.
Thank you all so much. And also, I really appreciate you guys being here. Your insight is very, very valuable. So without further ado, let's get started into the questions. And for our attendees, remember to keep in mind what questions you'd like to ask when we have our open floor at the end. So our first question, and it's like first come, first serve, whatever you'd like, whoever would like to answer can answer, whoever doesn't want to answer doesn't have to answer. And I'll probably cut it off around like maybe 2-3 people per, so we can get to the open floor sooner. But our first question will be, what should you be sure to include on your resume? Go ahead, Sally.
Yeah, so I think it's very important to include in your resume, because I actually talked about include way more than I thought that I would. Not that like I thought that I wouldn't need to like talk about it at all, but the experience of working with like PMs and also like with other designers and also with engineers was such a valuable thing. And I talked about it a lot, especially in like the technical interviews and the behavioral, when I was asked to talk about my experiences working with people, and I was able to use my experience working at Include as both like a cohort member and also as like a project manager. So yeah, I think it's very important to include in your resume.
What a great club shout out. Thank you so much. Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, so I kind of follow this XYZ format. I think it's Google's XYZ format. But basically it's what you accomplished, quantitative results, and then the skills and experience you used. So I can give an example. I spearheaded marketing campaign to increase post engagement. That's what I did by 40%. That's the quantitative data. And then by understanding market trends via blah, 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 like user interviews. And that's like the skill that I used. So try to have this as like a bullet point formula, and yeah, it'll help a lot rather than just copy and pasting your job responsibility.
Great advice. And our last answer for this will be Ronik.
Yeah, I think include is some great experience I can have. It shows that you're a self-starter and that you can work independently. You're working with coding languages like, that the industry already uses. So these are skills that companies definitely want. And companies are looking forward. So you're already like a top candidate as soon as you have this. Club involvement, campus involvement is always great, but being able to show projects that is giving back, like this club is doing, has you working on, is great to have on your resume. It shows character, personality, and an amazing list of skills. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Our next question is, what are some common mistakes you have seen on resumes, or maybe some mistakes you have made in the past that you think our attendees should keep in mind? Brian, go ahead.
One of the things that is really important is making sure that you know everything about what you wrote on your resume. You may tend to stretch the truth a little bit, but be expected to have people like question you on that. Every little project that you say you're involved in, as an interviewer, that's the only thing that they can kind of go off of. So they'll drill down on something really deep, or try to hang on to something that they can like relate with you on. So Yeah, I guess that's something that we look out for when we're hiring, but also I've also made that mistake before too. So
That's awesome advice. Thank you. Iftikhar, go ahead.
Yeah, I think what I'd like to mention is sometimes a common mistake that I've seen is the experiences of like a one particular experience, they're not fleshed out fully. So for example, let's say you worked at Include, or last year when I worked at Include, we worked on a website. So instead of just saying, oh, developed a website for XYZ, we can really flesh that out a bit more, like what tools you used, what language you used, hone in on the communication skills, because there was meetings and stuff, there was deadlines. So one common mistake that I personally made was not going into a lot of detail into the type of work that I did.
And Ron, any final remarks?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes. Yeah, I have a couple of things. Okay, so I think the first thing that came to my mind is you got to put stuff on your resume that caters to the position. I don't want any sales associate or food service worker on your resume. You got to show that it's for this role, it's for tech, and you're passionate about the same thing. The second thing that I've seen in a lot of resumes is there's a lot of we culture. And it's great, it shows that you're a team leader and stuff like that. But companies don't know that you're going to be you've been working in a team, whatever campus involvement or projects you're working on, you're mostly working in a team. They don't want to see that. They want to see your impact. What was the metrics? What impact did you make on your team? Were you just a coder, or were you a self-starter yourself? That's the second thing. And the third thing is chuck the high school stuff on your resume. I do not want to see that. I personally would not want to see that. If you did something in high school that doesn't involve the role, generally recruiters don't want to see that. They want to see more stuff that you've done in college, more recent stuff. I wouldn't say not high school. Like, you could be a freshman or a sophomore, and I understand when you have that. But if you're going into your third year or senior year, you better have more stuff besides high school. Yeah, those are my 3 points. Yeah.
Thank you. Cassidy?
Yeah, one thing to add, I think a good tip is to look at the company's website and check out their values or how they define success. And you can use that vernacular in your resume. So in your job experience, you can use words that the company is privy to, and that could help you stand out.
That's great advice. And Brian, would you have anything to add? I believe you're muted, bestie.
oh, sorry. One thing that I did want to call out, is it Ranuk? Is that your name? But anyways,
Ronak. Yes.
Ronak, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
One thing that I did want to call out is that, if you don't have technical experience in a technical field and you want to include your restaurant experiences on your resume, be able to spin it in a way where it applies to the industry, right? Like, the way I see being an EPM is very similar to being a server. It's very silly, but I'll go into details some other time. But if you can draw analogies and people can see the value in investing time in you, especially as a new college grad, it may be worth putting on your resume, especially if you don't have that many things. But I agree, prioritize the ones with technical experience first and then throw in the other stuff.
Those are some great things to look out for. Our next question is, how was the interview process at your company or the prior company you may have worked at? You can go into detail about how many rounds that may have included, what the behavioral or technical interviews were like, and any other tips on interviews that you would like to mention. And Sally, would you like to go first?
Yeah, so for Riot, the interview process was composed of one, phone screening interview and one technical interview where I just went over my portfolio, and 2 behavioral. And The phone call was pretty like self-explanatory. It just like asked about the stuff on your resume, if everything is up to date, and some logistic stuff. Going into the technical interview, I was asked about some of the pieces on my portfolio, as well as like some things that I would like to improve or work on if I have more time. And a lot of the questions came specifically like about like everything that was in my case study. But for the behavioral, I had my second interview with the head of engineering for the team that I worked on in the summer, and also the head of UX for the first interview, and the third interview was with my hiring manager. And a lot of those just ask about like the company culture, and like I think it's really important to be able to reflect the fact that you were able to use those company culture related things in your experiences, even if it's school experience, like such as working and include with a team. It's pretty important to highlight those skills. And also I think it's really very important to be pretty like genuine. And I feel like that's something that I couldn't like really get to know, because I thought that you just had to be like super excited about like what you do and everything, but mostly they just want to see your entire personality. Because I have so many times like during my internship where like we're kind of like working, so just talking with each other as just like friends, or just like very, very like friendly coworkers. So I think they just want to see who you are as a person. And so it's important to show your personality in that way too.
Thank you. Also, everybody, it's Sally's birthday if you didn't know. So make sure you wish her a happy B-Day in the chat, because she's amazing for being here on her birthday. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add to this question? Otherwise, we can skip to the next.
I can share my experience.
Go ahead.
So I started at Capital One as a contractor. So I got contacted by a recruiter through LinkedIn. So my interview process at first was honestly really easy. I had an interview with the recruiter, and then I had an interview with my manager, and we had a really long conversation, but I guess it was just the right fit. And so once I was in and my contract was up, I then got hired on full time by the company. And once I was in, I actually had already switched teams. So I kind of got to know my team. So this is like more of an unusual scenario, but I'm sure other people will go through similar experiences, at least someone. So I kind of got to know my team and the culture. So that kind of gave me like a foot up in the process. But Capital One does something called a power day. So we'll have like 5 or 6 hours of interviews. It's a really exhausting day, but part of it is more of like a technical interview, so showing how you can apply your skills. And then the other half is like almost like a personality fit, team fit interview. And in that case, you would get interviewed by people that are on your team. And yeah, I totally agree with Sally. It's just really important to show your personality, because there are so many people that would be right for the job and have the skills, but what they're really looking for is someone that they can enjoy talking to and being around every single day, and that can really mesh on the team. So it's definitely important to keep in mind.
Thank you. And Ron, would you have anything to say?
Yeah, I think yeah, I'm in full agreement with Cassidy. I think definitely you should try to, like in the previous question she said that you should really like study on the companies and stuff, see what their core values and everything, and try to like base your resume around that. And that also applies for like the interview process. My process was, so I think at Microsoft it was one behavioral interview where it's a recruiter call. They ask you a couple questions to make sure your culture fit, and then after that it's they call you on another day if like they see you a fit on the team. They do your team matching before that, before the final interview. And yeah, so if you got matched with a team, like a team likes you, then they call you for an interview. That's 5 back-to-back rounds, which is 1 hour each, and 5 of those. And yeah, they're asking you pretty much only lead code questions or spin off of a lead code question. Yeah, so do your lead code definitely. And yeah, then after that, you just hear you get the results in a couple of days. Yeah.
And hopefully the result would be a yes.
Yes, it's always going to be yes.
Yes, of course.
Mhm.
There's no other answer. Our next question is, what type of projects did you or do you work on as an intern or full-time employee? And you don't need to answer this question if you can't disclose it, but if you can give any insight, I'm sure our attendees would love to hear about what it's like to work at your respective companies. Go ahead, if.
Yeah, so yeah, I'd like to share a little bit about the work that I did as an intern. I think I forgot to mention this in the introductions, but I worked as an intern at LinkedIn over the summer in the data engineering team. So the project that I worked on was more of an internal tooling for the team that I worked on, or worked in rather. So the project was basically this: our team handled a large number of data sets, and there would be other teams that depend on the data sets that we worked on, and sometimes those data sets need to be deprecated. So for example, maybe there's a newer, like better version of the data set that needs to be used, or simply it's a data set that's not being used anymore. In that case, we try to deprecate it to make sure that it's not taking up unnecessary space. So the problem with that was when you deprecate a data set, you affect everybody downstream. So when you before deprecating a data set, you would need to figure out all the other data sets that depend on it. After that, you would need to check, okay, how frequently are those being used? Like, are they being used a lot? So we need to worry about it if they're not being used at all. And then based on that answer, you would need to reach out to the owners of those downstream data sets. So this whole analysis process was very tedious and was time consuming. So the tool that I worked on was something that would automate this process. So if you had a particular data set you want to deprecate or not use anymore, you could just type that into the tool and the tool would give you all the information. So all the downstream users, all the usage information, all the owners of those data sets. So it would it reduced the analysis time from maybe about an hour to just a couple of minutes. So yeah, that's a little bit about my project.
Thank you so much for sharing. Brian, would you like to share some more?
Yeah. I think one thing to kind of keep in mind is when you decide to choose companies for intern or full-time positions, big tech companies are great, but there's also a million other people that work there. The projects that you're working on, have so many people involved in it as well. So when I say I did these things, it wasn't just me. But I used to be on an identity management team. So we issued out tokens to other applications to say, hey, Brian is who he says he is when he logs in. And so through that, for last year's iOS development, I worked on the Fitness Plus app before it came out, I believe, or the year before. And then also focus mode before this recent update when it was just a few profiles that you could have. But on my current job right now, during all of Apple's new launches and stuff, we basically make sure that search works. And the running joke that I have is if it works, you can give me credit, but if it doesn't work, you can blame someone else on my team. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Ron, you want to share?
Oh yeah. I just wanted to just add on what Brian said as well. I interned at a much smaller company than Microsoft. I worked at this company called Masterclass, and it's a very, very small team. Barely there were 10 or 15 engineers on the team, and the experience is amazing. It's great to have that sort of experience as well because you're wearing multiple hats. So you're doing everything. You're on call, you're doing QA, you're doing coding, the typical software engineering. You're doing absolutely everything under the sky. So, and it's great to get your hands dirty in every single thing. That increases your opportunity. It also is very valuable to a lot of companies looking for like full-time workers, because you can practically do everything. So you're saving them money if you can do all these skills. Like if everything can be done in by one person, why should they get like 4 different engineers to do the same thing? So yeah.
Thank you. Our next question is, what is something you wish you would have known before getting into your role? Whether that means getting to your specific position or just starting in industry in general. Brian, go ahead.
Oh man, this one is so important. When you first look for a job, you're just like, I'll take anyone who hires me. But having a like strong manager or someone that supports you through your career and stuff is so important. On my previous roles, like I'm still in touch with my manager. Like we go to the gym and we hang out, and it's really like he really cared about my growth and development and stuff. It wasn't just someone that I went to for problems or to get a new assignment. So as much as they're interviewing you, make sure that you're also interviewing them and the team to see if that culture fit is right for you.
That's great advice. Benjamin, would you like to share?
Yeah, +1 to have a good relationship with your manager. I'm super lucky and mine is amazing. We're like friends outside of work. But one thing that I wish I knew was basically document everything that you achieve at work. So whether that's like, oh, I had a deliverable that just got sent out. I just got a thumbs up from someone. All these are good things to keep track of, because by the end of your internship, or if you're in search of a promotion, these are things that you might have forgotten throughout that 6 months or 3 months. So just keep like a notebook, or like just document your things.
Diego?
Yeah, I was actually gonna say that too, but then now that I think about it, I just want to follow up with what Brian was saying. I feel like something that I didn't know is building relationships, like how far that can go, especially like the close team that you have. I feel like that, like when I realized that it's more than just like work, and then it's all depending on like the culture fit and stuff like that. But then if you get to know them and actually like get to talk to them like outside of work, I feel like that to me made everything so much easier. Like everything just like flowed, and like I feel like, yeah, like if I would tell myself again in the beginning, like I will definitely tell myself go out of your comfort zone and like talk to more people, like get to know like about their background, where they're coming from and stuff like that, because that way you're also going to learn and grow basically.
Ron?
Yeah, I had 2 things. One, I have not used a single thing from what I've learned from school at work. Not yet, at least. So it would have been nice if I went a little easy on myself in school and focus on like projects and stuff and like extracurricular activities. But that's just me. The second thing was like create a network for yourself. It's great to have friends that have the same goals as you do, and so that you're sort of like helping each other up in the whole way. For me, it was include. There were times when I just go on a complete grind in lead code, which would absolutely like affect my mental health, to the point that I still have like imposter syndrome. It's a very, very real thing. I mean, you may even get to the point where like you feel like, okay, I'm here, and still feel really insecure. These feelings are fine, they're all right, and believe it or not, like the genius of the geniuses also feels this. It's absolutely normal, but all you can do is keep focusing on yourself, keep working on yourself, personal development, and like I said, have a network of friends that you can talk to, so that they can also like help you out in the situation. On that point, join Include, because they're very good community to have in these sort of things.
Thank you. It might seem like we're just trying to brag about Include, but when I say that I wouldn't be where I am right now if it weren't for the people you see on this panel and for the club itself, I mean it. We want the best for you guys. Sally, do you want to be the last person to answer this?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask something. Sorry, y'all, I forgot my AirPods, so it's a little hard for me to figure this stuff out. Just wanted to add, like, at the end that like for Ron, like I think it's pretty, I can't really speak for all the devs, but I think it's pretty normal to not be able to use a lot of the things that you used or you learned at school. But for design, I feel like it was actually the complete opposite. I learned a lot about the design process and the end-to-end process, and the things that I learned even just through clubs that I kind of honestly kind of underestimated because I thought it was just like it's just club stuff, like it's for your experience, but then I thought that I would use a lot more of like what I learned by myself or like things like that. But companies care so much about what you did in school, and I feel like it's really important, and I wish that I had joined clubs way sooner, because the projects that I've gotten from participating in clubs like include gave me so many case studies that I use like for my interview process that like I feel like it's pretty hard to create like on your own if you're juggling your classes and you're in like clubs that don't give you these type of case studies. If you're trying to build your own case study and like do like a self-guided project on top of that, it's going to make you burn out because you're juggling so many things at once. So I think it's really important to be able to, and honestly, like you guys just being here, I feel like you guys are doing way better than how like most of us were, because we kind of figured it out at the end as well. But I just think it's really important to be able to put yourself out there and be participating in these clubs, because they will give you so many valuable things that you could add for your resume and your portfolio.
Thank you. I love that we have the design and the development perspectives right now. And for our final question that is like pre-made, what would you say to someone who is feeling defeated in this process? I feel like you guys know firsthand what it's like to send out 1,000 applications and not even hear back from a single one. Makes you feel like you're doing everything wrong. So what would your best advice be? Cassidy?
Yeah, I feel like this is almost a universal experience out of college. But tagging on to what Sally was saying, yeah, just seeing or knowing that you are all coming to events like this to learn about how to improve your resume and how to interview better, and including yourself in clubs just shows me that you care. And I would say like it's really easy to worry a lot and feel like you're doomed, but you're not. Like you're putting in the effort, that's all you can do. And I'd also say not everyone has a job lined up out of college. Like most people don't. It's just those are the people that are the loudest. So if that's not your scenario, don't feel bad. That wasn't my situation. And when I graduated, I put in like 6 hours a day applying, and what I did, which is going to be I'm going to give advice that's opposite to what I did, but whenever I was applying, that it was consuming my entire life, and I was so worried about not having a job and going to be struggling, and like, am I going to just live at my parents' house forever? You know, all these things cross your mind. But I really wish that I would have taken the rest of my day just to chill out and not think about it, because like if you're not actively applying or not like actively talking to people, you should just give yourself time to like de-stress and decompress, because it's kind of like you need to still live your life even through these like anxious moments. So yeah, that's my advice.
You got to prioritize yourself first. Sally?
Yeah, so I have an advice that might be a little bit different from what Cassidy said. I echo everything that you said, Cassidy, but I feel like for me, what really stressed me out during my job application process was the fact that I was dedicating time every day, like dedicating like maybe, you know, like how people have their like timeline of like what they want to do during the day. If I dedicate like even 30 minutes or like an hour just for applying for jobs, I felt that I was like really dreading like the 5 p.m. when I told myself that I would apply to jobs. And I feel like because it's like literally like it's gonna determine like where your life goes, it's gonna be super stressful, like finding these jobs. And like honestly, it's not you finding those jobs, it's those jobs finding you, like you know, like trying to like see if you would be noticed by like some company. It's a very stressful process, and I feel like really dedicating time in your day every day, it may seem like a really good thing, like to keep yourself consistent when you're applying for jobs, but for me, it actually made it a lot more stressful. And something that I did was kept like a text file of my portfolio website on my phone, as well as a copy of my resume. And whenever I saw these like LinkedIn job alerts or whatever, I just applied and forgot about it, because honestly, these jobs don't really care about you that much at the end of the day. You're just one of the many applicants until you pass the screening process. And so not giving them so much, like not having so much hope for every single one of these companies really helped with my mental, because at the end of the day, if a company that ghosted me for 3 months, like, like they forgot about me, and then they later like email me like 3 months later saying, oh, by the way, we didn't accept you, this job was closed a long time ago, I'd be like, whatever, I forgot about you too. Because honestly, it's not worth being heartbroken over every single company that you get rejected from, because even the best of the best get rejected so many times. Like, all the panelists here, we've gotten rejected many, 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 many times before we landed where we are now. And we're probably going to still be getting rejected, even like if we're trying to transition out of our current job to like a different job. So don't feel discouraged. It's really, really easy to be defeated, but keeping check on your mental is really, really important. And having everything on my phone was just a way for me to do that, so that I don't treat it like a formal process where I have to dedicate so much time, applying to the jobs. Yeah.
That's great advice. Just getting it done and out of the way super quick. And Ron, do you want to be the last person to answer this question?
Yeah. If you guys have ever been to my house, so back in Davis, you'd actually see 3 walls in the hole. One's for Google, one's for Facebook, and the third is for another company. I was just really mad at myself, and I just took it out. I don't have anger management issues, I swear, but I was just really mad at myself. But that being said, I know what it's like to feel defeated. I've been rejected way too many times when I feel like I'm the best candidate for the role. You have to maintain the balance. You got to take a step back. Take a step back and be like, hey, this is getting too much for me. In fact, I remember when as soon as I got my Microsoft offer, I started like relaxed, and I got like really comfortable. And as soon as I like relaxed, my body went into this shutdown mode. I got COVID. I got like a bunch of diseases. I got carpal tunnel syndrome, which is like, muscle spasms on your on your wrist from like, typing and moving the mouse for too long. And my body was just ignoring that because I was just too invested in like, I need to get a job. I need to get a job that I like. And all of this is important, but I think if I were to tell someone, tell my younger self, myself like a couple months back, I'd just be like, it's all right. It's absolutely all right. This is not the end. If you don't get your dream job or you don't get a job that you like right now, it's fine. Okay. And if it's bothering you so much, you can always work towards it a couple months later. This is not the end of it all. And I come from an Asian household, so like if I'm telling you this, it's real. Okay. So I have friends around who are getting to the top, the big end companies all around, but it doesn't matter if you're not taking care of yourself. Are you happy with what you're doing? Are you happy with where you are? It doesn't matter if you're not taking care of if you're not taking care of yourself. So put yourself first before everything. It's gonna be all right. In the long run, it's gonna be fine. You're gonna get that job, you're gonna get that salary, you're gonna get everything. Patience. There's patience and perseverance. It's gonna be fine. Absolutely fine. Yeah.
Thank you guys. I just want to add in a little side note. I was feeling very, very defeated about this entire process like 3 weeks ago. And I had the privilege of going to the Grace Hopper celebration, which is where I met Cassidy. That's why she's here today. I had the pleasure of meeting her at the Capital One booth. And if you are a woman, non-binary, or trans person in computing or STEM, I'm not even in computing. I want to be a UX designer or a UX researcher. If you have the opportunity to apply to one of their scholarships and attend, or if you have the means to go yourself, I highly recommend. That event inspired me so much. And I think putting yourself in spaces that surrounds you with people that have this prior experience or care about, inspiring you and showing you like what the ropes are, I think that's a great opportunity to take. If you have any more questions about it, you can DM the Include Davis Instagram and I will reach back out to you. I will answer any questions that you have. That was just a little side note. I wanted to shout it out because I think that's valuable information you should know. And now until the end, we have the open floor. This is your opportunity to ask our amazing panelists anything that you want. You can direct the question at any of them for their specific experience, or it can be a general question for anybody who wants to answer. Please, I ask that you raise your hand so that we can go in order and be fair to everybody, because I know there's a lot of people who have a lot of questions they want to get asked. So whoever would like to ask, please raise your hand. Going once, going twice. Tough crowd.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Panelists, what was your most interesting or most like weirdest like question that you were asked during the interview?
Everybody took the same pose just
I
to
have
think
one.
that was something. Go
If you're
ahead.
interviewing for product manager roles, they typically ask like design thinking questions. So one that I got was design a fridge. And that's something that was super crazy, but something that a lot of PMs have to like prep for. Basically, you have to go through the use cases for the fridge, what kind of users are going to use it, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole process, but that's just the craziest question I've been asked. And for PMs, it's like over and over, you're going to hear those type of questions.
Anyone else have a funky question they got asked in an interview? Doesn't have to be weird, maybe something unexpected. Ooh, reverse a doubly linked list. That is traumatizing.
I think there was a follow-up question in the chat. How does that even work? Do they give you time to design the fridge right then and there, Benjamin?
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer. You literally just have to walk through your thinking process. So if you were like an entrepreneur, how would you start off designing that fridge? Well, you want to know like who's going to use it first. Like, what does a fridge do? It's supposed to like keep stuff cold. So don't just skip over all of that stuff. That's kind of like the foundation that you need to move forward in the interview process. Basically, the conversation keeps going until like you build a very specific product. And then, yeah, it's kind of like starting from nothing and then research, and then you kind of narrow down to something.
Gabriel, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, I have a question for Ron. Yeah, so my question is so you said that while you were like on the job hunt process, you kind of like got really upset at some stuff, and then like you were grinding really hard, obviously. And then you said that you caught COVID and stuff, and a bunch of like bad things happened to you afterwards. So like, would you say that it was all inevitably like worth it at the end though, even if you have if you got those health problems, like, because the health problems will pass, and you can fix a wall, but then once you get your position, So was it worth it at the end? I would think so.
Yeah, I think you know what, I'm gonna say I feel it maybe, yes, it was. I mean, of course, now I'm gonna say it's worth it, but I'm not. I feel I could have done things differently. I could have done more focus, having more focus rather than like doing whatever. Like suppose let's say you're preparing for Facebook. Okay, you don't have to do all the freaking lead code questions. You could just do the top 50 lead code Facebook, and you're perfect. Or you could invest in like a monitor, like so the one of the reasons why I had a carpal tunnel syndrome was because I was using the mouse pad a lot, which allows you to stretch your fingers in a way that will cause muscle spasms. Invest in like a mouse or like monitors so that you have like you're sort of like exercising your muscles or not creating that tension. So but yeah, to answer your question, I mean, it was worth it. I mean, I'm happy where I am, but I think the fact is I would have done things a little more differently. I also like cut people out. In fact, like Include could probably like back me up on this. I cut a lot of people out during the process when I feel like I had a one-on-one with Ben once, and that literally was the best like 1 hour I had in the couple of weeks I had been grinding, just talking to someone and not being like competitive for once. It's fine to just spill out your feelings to someone every once in a while and be like, hey, I am not okay. I don't know where this is going. I'm grinding, but nothing's happening. So yeah, I mean, absolutely worth it. But yeah, just like do things differently. Don't do it the way I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that answers the question. So basically, like, you think the process you took was fine. It's just more like your emotional responses to some of the things you could have taken, like, been more calm about it instead.
Absolutely. The grind is worth it. And the work that I put in was definitely worth it. Just would do it differently.
It's worth it, but just like calm down a little bit. Basically.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Great question. Thank you.
I think the moral of his story was that it's important to work hard, but it's also very important to separate yourself from what's going on and remember that right now is not forever. You will have time, you will have future opportunities. It's not worth stressing out like that over and over. Before we get to raised hands, I will ask some of the questions in the chat because they were first. Oftentimes, do you feel like you may have to settle working on projects that you don't find the most interesting, at least early on in the career? Or should you try to get the exact position with the exact team and projects you want right out of the gate? If we could have maybe like 1 or 2 quick answers to this while we are entering our final 10 minutes. I actually am wondering the same thing. Cassidy, go ahead.
Yeah, so not every project you work on, you're going to fall in love with. I mean, at least from my personal experience. I never thought that I would work for a fintech company. It's kind of something that just fell into place. And what I've learned is that whenever you put yourself into situations that maybe you normally wouldn't, you learn a lot more than in situations that you're comfortable with. So I would encourage anyone, like if you're looking at a company that's like, oh, this might not be like exactly what I want, like you could learn a lot, learn a lot of things that you do like, and also maybe understand what you don't like. And with your first job, I think it's good to have some flexibility, because now that I'm a couple years into my career, I'm starting to think about how I can diversify my portfolio. And now I can really dive into a company that aligns more with my values and my passions. But that was learned through my first company, that I learned a lot of that like aligned with a lot of my interests too, whenever I didn't like necessarily know that it would. So
Sally?
Yeah, I think it's also really hard to know exactly what you want to do. Like, sure, you may want to go into a field in UX design, but maybe that might change and you might want to do project management instead, or like you might somehow want to pick up coding instead of design, which I don't understand. And like, I think it's really hard to like know exactly what you want, especially if you're like just starting school, or if you just got out of school. Like, it's hard to know, and most of the times you're kind of trying to see what companies would notice you, and you kind of have to be a pick me for these situations where like you want them to notice you, you want them to pick you, choose you, and love you, right? So I don't think it's right to just like focus solely on like what specific team and what specific projects that you would want to work on, because it's not going to be ideal, and the job process where you like find your perfect job, it's not going to be linear. So I think it's really important to keep an open mind.
Ron?
Yeah, I think I think I'm just adding on to the two previous speakers. I think it's early on in your career, you shouldn't be really choosy about what you want, because you don't have experience in everything. I feel like personally for myself, you just go with what's the status quo, what's like, what's the norm of like everyone who's a software engineer or like a dev. I think I personally do not have any experience with like program management or like TPM or like designing, and getting some hands-on experience. Who knows, you may end up liking it, and maybe that's what you have an affinity for. That's what you're supposed to be doing. That's what you enjoy doing. So and coming back to like include as well, this club also gives you a lot of opportunities to try different things. You can be a dev for one quarter, you can be a designer for another quarter, you can go into a little bit of a management role. You have the whole thing, the whole coverage in this club. So try to involve yourself in more and more like campus clubs that give you these type of opportunities, so that after trying everything, you know that, okay, this is what I want to do. I know I'm fully confident, like, this is what I'm good at. So that when you're applying for roles as well, like internships or like full-time positions, if a question comes or arises like, oh, why do you want this role? Or why do you think you're a good fit? You know it, you know it, you're ready. You've been waiting for this question for ages. So absolutely explore. And try everything. Don't be really choosy early on in your career.
Thank you. Rishabh, do you have a question?
Hi. Yeah, I have two questions. Okay, so my first question is for the panelists. So I know Ronak said that what he learned in school didn't apply at all in any of his internship or job experiences. But my question is more directed to the cognitive science majors or psychology majors or design majors. Would you all say different? Would you all say that what you did learn in school did actually help you? And can you provide like any examples of maybe what you learned that you were like, damn, I'm so thankful I learned that in school and not on the job?
Unfortunately, I don't think we have any non-design and non-CS majors on this panel.
Shucks. Okay.
If
Second
anybody,
question.
oh wait, that's okay. Okay, yeah, move on to your second question.
Okay.
Oh wait, Ron has something to say. Hold on, let Ron go.
So I work on the ML team. I work on the ML team and at Microsoft, MS Research. I work on conversational AI. So we create a lot of regression models. So yes, I know I did say that nothing from school was ever applied. I think that's more focused on like CS. Of course, like it did teach me how to code and but like the concepts I didn't really like apply. But a lot of like the regression models, I learned from statistics, from my statistics major. And if I didn't have that experience, I don't think the team really would have considered me for the role. So definitely taking all that knowledge, I'm sure that like whatever I learned in CS would also be applicable in the future. It just hasn't been used yet. Yeah.
Ben?
I feel like regardless of what you study, don't feel restricted to a certain career. Like I studied computer science and I wanted to do UX design at one point. And everything you learn in your classes, there are some things that can apply, like doing a group project, being able to take notes. There are certain things that can help you out, but then don't expect it to always lead up to XYZ career. That's like one thing I have to say.
Awesome. Also, as a cog sci major, I think that when it comes to the UX projects that I'm doing, even though I'm not in industry yet, I find that my perspective of like how people think, like my mind has literally changed from what I've studied in school. And I think it changes my perspective of how other people think. I'm literally taking a class right now called Perception. It's Psych 131 if any of you guys want to take it at Davis, but I think this is going to be very foundational to UX design. Also, Nancy is a cog sci major who also, she graduated last year, but she's into the real world now and she can also answer your question. So Nancy, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I guess to answer your question, so I did graduate a few months ago from Davis in cog sci, computational emphasis. And I guess what I could say related to that was some of the classes that I did took. So for example, like when you're in I guess like the lower division cog sci classes, you would take like what's it called? I guess research methods. And I would say definitely that plays a huge role, especially when you do like this design in the research emphasis. I definitely have partaken in doing more of like, for example, like card sorting, survey analysis, things along those lines. And that has like really helped me just learn more about like the emphasis of like delving more into like the human emotions and things along those lines.
Thank you so much for being our honorary panelist. Does anybody else have any final questions that they want to fit in these last 2 minutes? Oh yeah, Rishabh, you had a second question. Ask it super quick.
Okay, so my second question is, okay, let's say Include never existed and y'all were not able to get any of the experiences that you were able to gain from Include. How would y'all go about attaining such experiences by maybe going into projects yourself, I don't know, planning projects with friends, learning skills for yourself, stuff like that? How would y'all go about something like that if Include never existed?
I'm gonna let Brian take the cake on this one. He'll be our one answer because he did not go to school here where there existed an Include club.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, I would start off with personal projects because that's what motivates you after class, after, on the weekends to do things that actually interest you. I have a side business and I built a website for that. And hey, my freshman year, that was something that I talked about. From there, your alumni network is really strong and you'd be surprised that like if you just DM people that they'll actually respond. And there's some amazing alumni from Davis that you can reach out to. But I would say find a mentor or find someone that you can kind of go to for these kind of questions to course correct. If you're like at a fork in the road or something like that, just to keep you on track. And just believe in yourself. I would say, like, if you know that you can succeed, like with all the rejection and everything, it only takes one yes to really launch your career, start things off, and then your resume is populated with a bunch of projects that you worked on. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Sorry, Ron, I'm not gonna let you answer this because we have reached 7 o'clock. You tend to answer your questions very longly, so sorry, bestie. Can you guys see the last slide? Okay, here we are. Thank you guys so much for attending this panel. I really appreciate you guys for taking that step in wanting to learn more. And a huge shout out to our panelists for taking time out of their day on a Thursday after being at work probably all day long doing work things. Your time is greatly appreciated. And I also just wanted to mention that I just felt one of our pillars of Include today, community. Even though these members on the panel are no longer UC Davis students, they still feel so in touch with our community here at Include that they were willing to commit to being here and being a resource for you guys and just helping everybody out, a part of the UC Davis community. So again, thank you so much to the panelists. If you want more information for what we're doing this quarter at Include, please follow the QR code, which will take you to the link that's on the left, fall.includedavis.com. It has information on our applications for our cohorts, which these panelists have been a part of, some of them. And so some of the things you might have heard, you can experience firsthand by applying to them this quarter. It is a 2-quarter long commitment and you can find out more throughout the link. And if you have any other questions, you can feel free to stick around for a little bit. Otherwise, you can DM us at Include Davis on Instagram. And I hope you all have an amazing night. Thank you. Oh yeah, and if the panelists don't mind, like, I don't know, connecting on LinkedIn or something. If you don't want to do it, that's okay. But if you want to do it, put a little thumbs up or something. Because I know some people might have direct questions that they might want to reach out to you with.